not have. And we must understand these constraints, because if we don't understand them, then we will make assumptions and we have expectations that will never be realized. And as a result of non-realization of expectations, we become frustrated and discontent then spreads in. So we need understanding, we need wisdom, and we need knowledge. And it's important to have a distinction between symptoms and problem. My position is that recessions are symptoms, they are not problems. They are indications of the existence of something more fundamental, and therefore we have to dig deeper to be able to understand what exactly is the problem. Because we will show subsequently that it is inevitable that given the kind of global governing philosophy that shapes, structures, and drives the global economy, that is inevitable that you have instability. It is inevitable. We can go back to the Great Depression from 1929 to 1941. We can go back to the one in 1945, 1949 to 50, 1953, 1960, 1969 to 70, 1973 to 75, and so on and so forth, up to the most recent one, which is that of 2008 to 2009. Now, there are three dimensions of the problem that we discuss: the historical nature of the problem, the global context of the problem, and the spiritual context of the problem. There are important discernments that each person that needs to enter this conversation in a way that is meaningful ought to have. First, what is the material and spiritual aspiration of Nigerians? What is our collective? The first speaker says, who am I? This question is saying, who are we as the people? We can limit it to the level of Nigeria, but I believe we should expand it to the level of humanity. Who are we as humans? What is the purpose of humanity? What is the direction that humanity is following and ought to follow? Those to me, I think, are issues of discernment that is important. Then secondly, we need to be able to discern the disagreement that seems to exist between our material and spiritual aspirations and the ruling governing philosophy of the world. If two agree, then they can go together. If two disagree, they can't go together. And what that means is that if our national material and spiritual aspirations do not agree with the governing philosophy globally, they cannot go together. And finally, and the third thing we need to, is there an agreement between Nigeria's material and spiritual aspiration and transformation? Because the talk is about transforming the Nigerian economy on theonomic principles. So the question is there an agreement between the transformation and theonomic principles? And we're going to be able to show that, yes, there is that agreement. Now, some clarifications. What is a symptom? It's simply a sign or indication of the existence of something serious that is undesirable. And what is the problem? The Greek origin of the word problem is problema, an obstacle. An obstacle placed that prevents you from accomplishing what you need to accomplish. And transformation, the conceptualization of transformation is from 2 Corinthians 5:17. It's about ending of old things, inside and outside, not just superficial. And then the replacement with new and infinitely better things, inside as well as outside. Which means, without renewal, old things will not pass away. Secondly, if new wine is not packaged in new wineskin, both the wine and the wineskin will be lost. So transformation, the way I see it, the way I understand it, is predicated on renewal of individuals, of families, of society, of political organizations, as well as economic organizations, of institutions and of the state. Then theonomic principles and theonomics are very clear. Theonomic principles are godly principles that help each person to make the right choices at two levels. Eternal choices. Where does it all end? Secondly, repetitive everyday choices and infrequent important ones, like marriage. We make those decisions infrequently, once. Then the core principles are transcendence and eternal perspective. The second principle is God-centeredness. The third principle is virtues. The fourth principle is stewardship. The fifth principle is renewal or rebirth. And the sixth principle is the principle of eternal reward. Theonomics, on the other hand, is a study of the applications of godly principles to the stewardship of people and God-given resources, talents, gifts at individual, family, organizational, national, and global levels. Now, initially when I was thinking about this talk, I was a bit unsettled about how to approach it. Fortunately, on April 13, I attended my friend's inaugural, Professor Adeni Kinju at the University of Ibadan, and we were singing the national anthem. And when I looked at the national anthem, it was as if I was looking at the words afresh, both the first and second stanza. Please, I crave your indulgence for us to go through the first stanza, the second stanza, and to discern what is our aspiration as a nation. And then we'll go through section 15, 16, and 17 of the Constitution to see again how it complements the national anthem, to give us the people an identity, a material as well as a spiritual aspiration. Then we can see whether these aspirations are antagonistic to the governing philosophy of the world, or they are in agreement and therefore can go together. Now, I've tried to look at it in terms of three questions. If you look at the first stanza, we can ask the question, who are we? It says, we are compatriots. Who are compatriots? Nationals, fellow citizens, neighbors, one people. So our national aspiration is not Yoruba separately, Igbo separately, Hausa separately, Edo separately, one people. The second question is, who is calling us? And the national anthem answers the question. It says, Nigeria, our fatherland, is the one that calls us. What kind of nation is it? It says, a nation bound in freedom, peace, and unity. Then what does the nation call us to do? It says, to serve Nigeria with love. Not with too much money. With love. With strength and with faith. And also exhorts us, those of us who are young and those of us who came behind our heroes past, that we should never allow their labors to be in vain. The question is, can selfishness, greed, and love of pleasure deliver on these aspirations? Second stanza. The second stanza is prayerful. It says, and I asked two questions. First, who are we praying to? He said, God of all creation, which means that we believe in the supreme God as a people. Then secondly, it says, we ask the question, what are we praying for? If you look at it, it says, directions. Direct our noble cause. Which is it? To build a nation where peace, justice will reign. Then we also ask for guidance for our leaders. It says, guide our leaders right. Why do we need divine guidance for our leaders? The reason is this. Interests and ideas are at war with aspirations. So what that means is that you need divine guidance to know which ideas are right for the people and which ideas are wrong. To know which interests are right for the people and which interests are wrong. Because if you mistake the ideas and the interests, then you will lead the economy into a disaster. You will lead the nation into disasters. And we will show the disasters that will happen with historical evidence shortly. We also prayed, help our youth the truth to know. Why do our youth need the truth? The reason is this. Ignorance is dangerous. Where you should see a fellow countryman as a fellow countryman, a fellow human being as a fellow human being, you begin to see him differently. Ignorance. And you begin to covet things that you should not covet instead of developing friendship and love and things that really count and matter. And you will begin to be informed